Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump says he may or may not strike Iran and that it's currently very late for negotiating. Jack Bradley at the White House. The Iranian regime is rejecting an appeal from President Trump calling for unconditional surrender. Both Israel and Iran keep firing rockets at each other today. Could China come to Iran's aid if the conflict escalates further, and what form of aid could we see? We discussed this with a national security advisor. We have the latest on the Supreme Court's recent decisions on cross-sex procedures and nuclear waste. Senators took the first step to regulate digital assets. Democrats and Republicans supported the measure, though some opponents raised concerns about corruption. Two suspects are in custody after allegedly committing a hit and run at a No Kings protest. A demonstrator is seriously injured.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. A lot of stories to get through today. Our top story, President Trump this morning giving an update about the U.S. strategy in responding to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley joins us now from the White House. Jack, good afternoon. What's the president saying about the war?
Well, there's no clear sign of tension slowing down in the Middle East. President Trump saying that the U.S. may or may not strike Iran's nuclear sites this morning. And then he said this.
Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country. It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's so, you know, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to do that, and they got hit. Remember 60 days, and then came the 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit. That first hit, that was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended. It ended on the first night.
We have President Trump there reiterating his comments that during negotiations, he gave Iran 60 days to make a nuclear deal, and that they were struck on day 61 by Israel, with the U.S. still maintaining that the U.S. has no involvement in that. President Trump also mentioned that Iran reached out to him for a possible visit to the White House to discuss negotiations for talks, but he said that it's very late for that. Iran denying this. Take a look.
Very simple words, a very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it, I give up, no more. Then we go blow up all the, all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. You know, for 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. You know, war is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And we'll see. The next week is going to be very big, maybe less than a week, maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very, zealots, really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon that could destroy 25 miles, but much more than that, could destroy other nations just by the breeze blowing the dust. You know, that dust blows to other nations and they get decimated. This is just not a threat you can have.
So we have President Trump calling on Iran for an unconditional surrender. Iran's supreme leader responding, Ayatollah Khamenei, saying that it will never surrender, and that if U.S. military gets involved in this, that it will begin striking U.S. targets. Now, meanwhile, all of these comments come on the White House lawn as President Trump unveiled flagpoles, new flagpoles that he calls a gift from him, reaching about roughly 100 feet tall. Trump also called on the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates just ahead of his announcement on interest rate setting in about a half an hour from now. Take a look.
We should be 2 points lower. It'd be nice to be 2.5 points lower. We'd be saving $800 billion, $700 billion. It's a lot of money. Take it for nothing, for absolutely nothing. We'd save $600, $700, $800 billion. We have, I think we're 38th now in interest, and we should be number one. We should be the lowest.
Now, Trump has long called on the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates and thus stimulate the economy. Don.
And Jack, the U.S. is now working to evacuate American citizens out of Israel. Can you talk to us about what we know about this so far?
Right. So the U.S. is announcing, the State Department announcing today that they're working to evacuate those U.S. citizens in Israel by means of boat or plane. Let's take a look at U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee's statement this morning on X. He wrote, American citizens wanting to leave Israel, U.S. Embassy in Israel is working on evacuation flights and cruise ship departures. You must enroll, however, in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP. Now, it's unclear how many Americans are seeking to depart Israel, or have, even if the U.S. military will be involved in this at all. And that's as the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem announced today that it's going to be closing its doors, shutting down from today through Friday, saying that it's because of increased security risks. Now, according to Israeli authorities, since Friday, Iran has launched around 400 missiles at Israel, 40 of which breached the Iron Dome, killing about 24 people in Israel so far. Don, back to you.
All right, Jack, as always, thank you. Next, Senator Lindsey Graham said he talked with President Trump last night on Iran. He told reporters if diplomacy fails, you use force. Listen.
Do you think you either want to do away with their nuclear program or you don't? Diplomacy didn't work. For 60 days, he sent emissaries, nothing to show for it. So either you want them to have a nuclear weapon or you don't. And if you don't, if diplomacy fails, you use force. So if you don't understand that Iran with a nuclear weapon is the biggest danger in the world, you're missing a lot. If you don't understand this is a religious Nazi regime, you're not listening to what they say. So all these people are talking about what if. Well, how can it be any worse? The guy in charge wants to kill all the Jews, reshape Islam in his own image, and come after us. November the 4th is Death to America Day in Iran. So the idea, well, what happens next? It can only get better. It can't be any worse. If the next guy wants to kill all the Jews and Americans, we've lost nothing. If the next person wants to live in peace, that'd be a big gain. So if you're president, you got to make hard decisions in real time. If you're sitting in the bleachers and you're uninformed, it's kind of a dangerous moment. You need to understand the regime. You need to understand their strain of Shiism is very, very radical. If you don't get that, you missed a lot.
Unrest in the Middle East has crossed over into the crypto industry. Public records show hackers stole at least $90 million from Iran's largest crypto exchange. In a post on X, Nobitex explained that the exchange detected unauthorized access to its infrastructure. Nobitex said its website and app will be unavailable for the foreseeable future as it investigates. It said it will share an update on how users will be able to safely access their assets again. Blockchain analysis firm Elliptic said that the stolen funds were sent to inaccessible wallets. The same group who took credit for a hack on Iran's bank, SEPA, are taking credit for this one. The hacking group, Predatory Shadow, said on X that it targeted Nobitex for allegedly funding terrorism for Iran. Israeli strikes on Iran have entered a sixth day, and talk of possible U.S. involvement is intensifying. Writing on X, Vice President J.D. Vance said President Trump may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. The U.S. is the only country with conventional weapons capable of targeting Iran's underground Fordow nuclear facility. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details on the so-called bunker buster.
Buried 260 feet beneath a mountain lies the Iranian regime's Fordow. The uranium enrichment facility is Tehran's second largest, but destroying it would require massive ordnance, the kind only the United States possesses. Center for a New American Security fellow Carlton Haylig explains.
First, it's penetrating hard and deeply buried targets. Think something like a bunker or a facility that's built within a mountain. And these are also timed within the fuses of the weapons so that they don't explode immediately upon impact.
This is the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator, commonly known as a bunker buster.
The GBU-57, which is the massive ordnance penetrator that's being discussed heavily in terms of American involvement in Iran, can actually penetrate up to 200 feet before detonating its ordnance.
Each GBU-57 weighs 30,000 pounds. According to Haylig, the bomb is the best option for penetrating targets like Fordow.
In the case of the massive ordnance penetrator, it is the only weapon in anyone's arsenal globally that's able to successfully target and potentially even eliminate facilities like Fordow.
Haylig explains that the GBU-57 was designed for other U.S. adversaries, but it's never been used in combat.
Initially, that was in terms of North Korea, later expanded to target sets including Iran as well. And even then, it's not a guarantee that one or even two of these weapons would be able to successfully take Fordow offline.
Despite its destructive power, a singular GBU-57 wouldn't be enough to destroy Fordow.
The Air Force actually has, as part of their kind of operational concept for attacking targets such as Fordow, would actually plan to use several of these munitions deployed through several aircraft.
Haylig elaborates, painting a picture of what a Fordow bombing mission could look like.
So it wouldn't just be a single munition dropped or even two from one airplane. It would be multiple strikes kind of barrowing down into that target set over time, kind of drilling down towards the target.
Haylig adds that, despite the bomb's destructive capabilities, there's no guarantee they'll be able to hit the facility. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz praised the Israeli army, saying they're doing the dirty work for us in Iran. In an interview with the German public broadcaster on the sidelines of the G7 summit, Merz said the regime in Tehran had brought death and destruction to the world.
This is the dirty work that Israel's doing for all of us. I can only say that I have the greatest respect for the fact that the Israeli army had the courage to do this. The Israeli leadership had the courage to do this. Otherwise, we might have seen months and years more of this regime's terror, and then possibly with a nuclear weapon in their hands.
And Israelis are finally returning home after airport closures left thousands stranded abroad. 2 flights from Cyprus landed in Tel Aviv this morning, the first to arrive since the Israel-Iran conflict began. Israel had shut its airspace to commercial traffic after Iran launched missiles toward the country. An estimated 50,000 Israeli nationals are still trying to get back. Israel's Ella Airlines is operating repatriation flights from Paris, Rome, Milan, and Athens, with 2 smaller airlines also joining the effort. Meanwhile, a cruise ship carrying evacuees from Israel arrived in Cyprus earlier today. It will now begin transporting stranded Israelis from Cyprus back home, with 2 crossings planned. Chinese President Xi Jinping broke his silence on the escalating Israel-Iran conflict, expressing concern and calling for de-escalation during a summit in Kazakhstan. His remarks came a day after China warned its citizens to leave Iran due to ongoing Israeli airstrikes. And joining us now to discuss where China stands amid the Israel-Iran conflict is Casey Fleming, CEO, Black Ops Partners Corporation and National Security Advisor. Casey, good afternoon. Do you think China would actually come to Iran's aid if the conflict escalates further? And what form of aid might we see?
Well, initially, you're going to see support for military munitions, maybe even food aid, that kind of thing initially. But if the U.S. gets involved, you can probably see China get involved as well. China's master plan is China being the grand puppeteer with Russia, Iran, Pakistan, North Korea in their axis. And it's part of the grand plan to create all this chaos and disturbance and confusion throughout the rest of the world for eventual takeover by the Chinese Communist Party. So this is all part of the CCP's grand plan. Now, what they're going to say is plausible deniability at first, and then, of course, using different tactics to throw people off. But the plan is absolute support of Iran. The more that they can structure confusion, terror, and so on, the more it throws the U.S. off of our balance.
Does it have anything to consider? What are its considerations when deciding whether to support Iran or not, especially right now?
Well, that's something that they know internally from the outside as a group studying the CCP for many years. It's really the ultimate goal is complete takeover of the world. So this is a regional conflict. They want to keep it regional, but if the U.S. gets involved in other ways, you'll see that it'll be a tit for tat. If the U.S. gets involved by bunker busters, maybe the CCP might get involved in bombing Israel, just in a tit for tat, to show that they are equal to the CCP, to show that they're equal to the United States. I wouldn't put anything past the CCP other than that they know that a showdown is, in our belief, in our estimation, imminent between China and the United States.
So is there a possibility, from what I'm hearing, that this conflict could bring the U.S. and China in a sort of proxy standoff?
Absolutely. Very well a proxy standoff. It also might give the license in the CCP's minds to go after Taiwan. We expect them to go after Taiwan in late 26 or early 27, but it may speed up that agenda by this regional skirmish and say, U.S., you came, you did a foul, so we're going to do a foul too. So CCP has been prepping their population and their military for war for a long period of time. And, anything is game at this point. It's the world is actually a tinderbox right now. And I don't want to make people feel nervous, but it's exactly what's going on.
Okay, then can you describe the nature of the relationship between China and Iran? And it's important because we got to know how much of their interests are actually aligned.
Well, the interests are aligned to the extent that they want to dethrone the United States and the rest of the Western world. So their interests are completely aligned at the strategic level. It's what they do tactically is anyone's guess. And everything that's done tactically, if it's not measured correctly, could escalate the war very, very quickly. So they're aligned strategically to defeat the West and the Western world of order and replace it with the Chinese Communist Party at the center of that web. And they are playing their enemies. Russia is very fearful of China, even though they're considered blood brothers together. That's what Xi Jinping and Putin say. Russia is very, very nervous of China in the future as a future enemy. And the same thing, China cannot be trusted. China is a ruthless totalitarian regime, a very dark regime that cannot be trusted, and they play to win. So this is a very, very serious time. This is not just a regional conflict this time. China is much more involved, although they'll play it coolly up front, even till the end. They'll play it, say, well, we didn't do anything. We're not behind anything. So it's always the deception piece of it that's always part of the CCP.
All right, if Israel succeeds, let's say, in destroying Iran's nuclear program, or if the Iranian regime falls, how would that affect China?
Well, it depends on who's going to come back in and rule Iran. Are they going to be supporting the CCP mission and strategy to dethrone and defeat the West and take over as the single global superpower? And if that regime, so the CCP will try to put their own people in to get, whether voted in or thrown in, if this dark regime in Iran ceases to exist. So if it's that piece of it, you can see that the CCP is going to try to put their own people in so they can control Or you can see other actions to dethrone whoever comes in to take over this regime, should this regime come out of power.
I'm wondering if you can also comment on how much does Iran depend on China, because it's reported that China buys nearly 90% of Iran's oil. What is China's influence on Iran?
That's considerable. It's absolutely, it's the #1 producer of Iranian oil. And I'm a consumer of Iranian produced oil. They are also turning it back around and processing and sending it back as rocket fuel back to Iran. So it's a symbiotic relationship to the extent that China can control that relationship.
Okay, all right, Casey, thank you very much for your time today. It's always great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Coming up, 2 suspects are in custody after allegedly committing a hit and run at No Kings protest. A demonstrator is seriously injured. We have that story and more after the break.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure in my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Thank you.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
The 911, where's your emergency?
I get shot in my best friend on an accident.
Keeping an eye on the latest Supreme Court decisions today, one case was decided on technical grounds and the other on the merits of the case impacting protections for transgender people. Now, let's start with the transgender case. The court upheld Tennessee's ban on cross-sex procedures for children who identify as transgender. The ruling effectively protects the Trump administration from legal challenges to similar bans ordered by President Trump. Another 26 states have laws similar to the one in Tennessee, and in Texas, The High Court ruled that the state of Texas and others could not pursue their claims against the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. The commission approved a facility in Texas for storage of nuclear waste. The majority said the plaintiffs had failed to intervene at an early stage of the approval process, but the court didn't address the legal question of whether the commission even had the authority to approve the privately owned facility. Democrats and Republicans showed support for regulating dollar-backed cryptocurrency. A first-ever crypto bill, that is, passed the Senate yesterday evening. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has the update.
The legislation that passed the Senate last evening is a pretty major step in the crypto world. It establishes regulations for stablecoins. The bill passed with 18 Democrats and almost all Republican support, and it strengthens bankruptcy protections for bank depositors and directs the Treasury to develop rules for monitoring suspicious transactions. Now, this legislation is just one piece of the puzzle to regulate crypto. Lawmakers still need to set rules. Supporters say this legislation is long overdue.
Senator Bill Hagerty's legislation, that will be a first step towards modernizing the American payment system and integrating digital assets into the U.S. economy in a responsible way.
Though there were a number who opposed it, expressing concern about the Trump family's connections in the market.
Donald Trump's meme coin has no value in and of itself. Its only value is based upon how much demand exists for the meme coin. And it's not hard to inflate demand for a product that doesn't have any value when you're president of the United States. And
now the bill is off to the House for approval, though lawmakers in the House have been working on their own digital asset bill, though that bill is very similar to the Senate-passed version. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Senate Republicans are investigating allegations that concerns about former President Biden's cognitive health were covered up. The Judiciary Committee is holding a hearing focused on key moments during his presidency. Senators John Cornyn and Eric Schmidt are co-chairing the hearing this morning. Cornyn says they're looking into key moments such as the border crisis and the withdrawal from Afghanistan. The senators also seek to know why the constitutional power to remove Biden from office wasn't triggered. Cornyn says it's now clear that the former president wasn't up for the task. This comes after CNN host Jake Tapper published a book alleging the White House controlled the narrative about Biden's health. The top-ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee is Senator Dick Durbin. He says today's hearing is a waste of time. According to Durbin, there are more important things happening right now, saying this hearing only serves political purposes. U.S. senators are calling for tighter security after the deadly shooting of a Minnesota state lawmaker over the weekend. Lawmakers say the threats are rising, with one senator warning of a spreading virus of political violence targeting public officials.
I'm profoundly grateful to law enforcement that the alleged shooter is now in custody, and I look forward to seeing him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. There's no place for this kind of violence in our country. None.
Public servants should never have to fear for their lives simply for doing their job. Public servants, there should not be an attempt to intimidate public servants not to do their job or not to take their job. So we need immediate steps. We need to take immediate steps to ensure the safety of members. That includes sending additional funding and resources to the Capitol Police.
Top law enforcement officials briefed senators behind closed doors following the deadly shooting of Minnesota state lawmaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. The same gunman also wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Capitol Police say threats against lawmakers have more than doubled over the last decade, nearly 9,400 last year alone. President Trump was also targeted in 2 assassination attempts in 2024, one of which left him injured. Meanwhile, the man charged with a federal hate crime in connection with the attack on the Pearl Street Mall in Boulder will appear in court today. The Pentagon said yesterday it will deploy up to 700 military personnel to assist with immigration enforcement in Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. The troops will provide logistical, administrative, and clerical assistance at detention facilities. The announcement comes just days after President Trump ordered putting every resource behind what he called the single largest mass deportation program in history. The focus is on cities like Los Angeles, New York, Chicago. Meanwhile, Trump has ordered ICE to resume raids on farms and hotels just days after pausing them. The United Farm Workers Labor Organization says the pause on workplace raids in California was never meaningfully enforced. Customs and Border Protection has released its May update. The figures show a sharp decline in illegal border crossings. In May, Border Patrol released 0 migrants into the U.S., a drop from more than 62,000 in the same month last year. Encounters at the border also fell dramatically, 93% compared to May 2024. Meanwhile, CBP also seized more than 700 pounds of fentanyl and millions in counterfeit goods. On the economic front, the agency reported collecting nearly $47 billion in tariffs this year. Each day, CBP assesses over $450 million in tariff revenue. 2 people have been arrested in connection with a hit and run at a No Kings protest in Southern California. Authorities say the incident left a 21-year-old demonstrator seriously injured. Investigators say the SUV veered toward the demonstration in Riverside, east of Los Angeles, and struck the woman. She remained hospitalized in critical condition. After a search aided by tips from the public, police arrested the suspect driver Monday. The 58-year-old Riverside resident faces charges including assault with a deadly weapon and hit and run causing injury. Also arrested was a 39-year-old Riverside woman. She is suspected of taking the vehicle into an unincorporated area of the Mojave Desert to destroy evidence. She faces charges of accessory after the fact and destruction of evidence. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell is holding a news conference right now. Let's take a look at that.
Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, as we call them, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment over recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In our summary of economic projections, the median participant projects GDP to rise 1.4% this year and 1.6% next year, somewhat slower than projected in March. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged 135,000 per month over the past 3 months. The unemployment rate, at 4.2%, remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The median projection for the unemployment rate in the SEP is 4.5% at the end of this year and next, a bit higher than projected in March. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer-run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total PCE prices rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. The median projection in the SEP for total PCE inflation this year is 3%, somewhat higher than projected in March. The median inflation projection falls to 2.4% in 2026 and 2.1% in 2027. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. At today's meeting, the committee decided to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% and to continue reducing the size of our balance sheet. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Changes to trade, immigration, fiscal, and regulatory policies continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that outcome will depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. We may find ourselves in the challenging scenario in which our dual mandate goals are in tension. If that were to occur, we would consider how far the economy is from each goal and the potentially different time horizons over which those respective gaps would be anticipated to close. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. In our SEP, FOMC participants wrote down their individual assessments of an appropriate path for the federal funds rate based on what each participant judges to be the most likely scenario going forward. The median participant projects that the appropriate level of the federal funds rate will be 3.9% at the end of this year, the same as projected in March. The median projection declines to 3.6% at the end of next year and to 3.4% at the end of 2027, a little higher than the March projection. These individual forecasts are always subject to uncertainty, and as I've noted, uncertainty is unusually elevated. And of course, these projections are not a committee plan or decision. At this meeting, the committee continued its discussions as part of our 5-year review of our monetary policy framework. We focused on issues related to assessing the risks and uncertainties that are relevant for monetary policy and the potential implications for policy strategy and communications. Our review includes outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference that we held last month. We are open to new ideas and critical feedback, and we will take on board lessons of the last 5 years in determining our findings. We intend to wrap up any modifications to our statement on longer-run goals and monetary policy strategy by late summer. After that, we will consider enhancements to our suite of communications tools, including the SEP. The Fed has been assigned 2 goals for monetary.
And that was Fed Chair Jerome Powell announcing that the U.S. Central Bank kept rates unchanged, and this will be the 4th time in a row, and projecting that GDP growth will be slower than previous forecasts. And the forecast remains the same for the number of rate cuts for this year. And as well as saying the labor market remains steady and is in line with maximum employment. Next, a federal judge found Florida's Attorney General in civil contempt of court yesterday for violating a restraining order. District Judge Kathleen M. Williams ruled that James Uthmeier violated a temporary restraining order that stopped him from enforcing a newly enacted law against illegal immigrants. The state law makes it a crime for adults with a mandatory minimum prison sentence of 9 months to enter or re-enter Florida. Uthmeier had sent a letter to state law enforcement agencies saying he could not prevent them from enforcing the law. Williams found this letter to be in contempt of her order. She ordered the AG to now submit bi-weekly reports on actions made under the new law. A familiar face is in the lead in the Democratic primary race for New York City mayor. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo holds a lead over State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani. It's an 11% point edge for Cuomo in the latest Marist poll. Among likely voters, however, the survey shows Mamdani has pecked away at Cuomo's lead since last polling was done in May. Both Cuomo and Mamdani are tied when it comes to initial preferences among Democratic voters who say they are most active in their party's primaries. Also, 11% of likely voters questioned say they're still undecided about their first pick. Cuomo and Mamdani are the only candidates in the large field to draw double-digit support in first-choice votes. The poll's findings are based on more than 1,300 likely Democratic primary voters in New York City. Primary day is next Tuesday. Texas Instruments said today that it will invest over $60 billion to build and expand 7 semiconductor factories in Texas and Utah. The announcement comes as President Trump urges companies to increase investments in the U.S. The company said that the investment in foundational or legacy semiconductors will create more than 60,000 jobs nationwide. The chipmaker joins several other U.S. tech companies that have announced major domestic investments. These efforts align with the Trump administration's push to boost semiconductor production in the U.S. Chip designer NVIDIA said in April it is planning to build AI servers worth as much as $500 million, or rather billion dollars in the U.S. over the next 4 years with help from partners. Texas Instruments has not yet provided a timeline for its investment. Nippon Steel's $14.9 billion acquisition of U.S. Steel was finalized today. The deal's closure highlights the significant influence the Trump administration after an 18-month effort by the Japanese company to complete the purchase. Nippon bought 100% of U.S. Steel shares at $55 per share under the deal terms. This matches the offer it first made in December 2023 for the steelmaker. The filing also discloses details of a national security agreement made with the Trump administration. It gives President Donald Trump the authority to name a board member as well as a non-economic golden share. Nippon Steel's chairman and CEO thanked Trump for his role. The golden share grants the U.S. government veto authority over key corporate decisions. These include actions like reducing production capacity or moving jobs overseas. Coming up, the Iranian regime is rejecting an appeal from President Trump calling for unconditional surrender. Both Israel and Iran keep firing rockets at each other today. We have that and more after the break.
Inflation is still driving up home repair costs. How are millions of homeowners saving money on unexpected bills? With Choice Home Warranty.
Is a new refrigerator in your budget? How about a replacement AC unit? I'm Ty Pennington. For many families, these costs can be catastrophic. That's why I'm a Choice Home Warranty customer. They've saved millions of homeowners from unexpected repair bills with an affordable monthly plan that provides peace of mind and helps avoid surprise expenses. Call now to protect your home with Choice Home Warranty and get your first month free.
Choice Home Warranty offers plans that cover repair or replacement on up to 25 essential home systems and appliances. Protect your budget with a customizable Choice Home Warranty.
We've been a Choice Home Warranty customer for almost 9 years.
And we couldn't be more happy with their service that we get from Choice Home Warranty.
Unexpected home repairs can quickly eat into your savings. It wastes time and fills you with stress. Choice Home Warranty is the most trusted name in home warranty. Call now to lock in a low monthly rate.
Choice Home Warranty has a nationwide network of more than 25,000 trusted technicians. When I have a breakdown, they always have the right contractor to get me taken care of quickly. I just pay a low monthly fee and they pay for the covered repairs.
Choice Home Warranty has been a great company to work with, and they've taken care of us. I would suggest anybody who lives in a home not to be in a home without him.
It's time to protect your hard-earned money with an affordable plan from Choice Home Warranty. Call right now for the peace of mind you and your family deserve. Call Choice Home Warranty now.
Protect your home and your wallet with Choice Home Warranty. Call now to get a free quote, your first month free, and save $10 a month for the first year. Call 800-983-4585, 800-983-4585, or go to choicehome.com.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
The Iranian regime is still attacking Israel after an appeal from President Trump calling for unconditional surrender. Iran claims that it could go up against the U.S. if America decides to intervene militarily. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the war update.
Iran says it is launching more rockets towards Israel on Wednesday, releasing this video appearing to show one of the missiles. Iran says it wants to keep fighting despite President Trump calling for unconditional surrender on Tuesday. The leader of the Iranian regime released a video message on Wednesday defying Trump's call for surrender. The Ayatollah says that the U.S. will suffer much more than what Iran may suffer. He also claims that America would experience serious damage if it conducts military intervention in Iran. Despite those claims, 3 Iranian government planes were seen leaving Iran on Wednesday, carrying senior government officials. The flight track shows they went to Oman, across the Persian Gulf. Smoke was seen rising over Tehran on Wednesday as Israel intensified its strikes against Iran. Israel released this video saying it shows strikes on military infrastructure in Iran, including on 5 attack helicopters. Israel's defense minister also says that Air Force planes have just destroyed the headquarters of the Iranian regime's internal security, the central suppression arm of the Iranian dictator. And an Iranian spokeswoman confirms that 2 banks have come under a cyber attack. According to Iran, there was no compromise in the storage of people's data. Meanwhile, in Israel, families, including women and children, have to spend the night in underground train stations, which are serving as bomb shelters. Missiles were seen flying through the night skies above the West Bank in the early hours of Wednesday. Israel says Iran launched 2 barrages of rockets. Explosions were heard over Tel Aviv.
I feel scared and overwhelmed, especially because I live in the densely populated area that Iran is seeming to target.
The Israeli military released this footage appearing to show fighter jets taking off from Israel. The military says the jets are being deployed to strike military targets in Iran. Arian Pasdar, NTD News.
And in this week's Profile of Service segment, NTD's Paul Graney sits down with New York State Senator Zellnor Myrie. Myrie recounts his journey from a Brooklyn boy to New York City mayoral candidate. Take a look.
I'm a born and raised New Yorker, son of 2 immigrants from Costa Rica. Sent me to public schools in Brooklyn. I went to PS 161, Brooklyn Tech for high school, went to Fordham University for undergrad, Cornell for law school, became a lawyer, worked for a very prestigious law firm, and then I ran for state senate in the same neighborhood that my parents raised me. And part of the reason why I'm running for mayor, part of the reason why I ran for office in the first place, is I was the recipient of an after-school program. I had really good middle school teachers. I had a city that looked after me. People stepped up and they gave me public service. I'm trying to give it back. My middle school teacher, Mrs. Randolph, was someone who believed very deeply in me. And she was the one that said, listen, I love you, Z, but you gotta get your act together if you're gonna be on the path to success. and I never forgot her investment. It's part of why it was my first commercial in my mayoral campaign. She said that if you can be diligent, if you can focus on your books, I know the potential that you have, and that inspiration is what I'm trying to give to some folks today.
Is there any particular moment where you thought, maybe I won't be able to do it?
You know, this is not easy. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes with public service. In particular, you sacrifice time with your family. You know, I'm recently married, and I would love to be spending more time with my wife than being on the campaign trail. So that makes it difficult sometimes. But you think about the mission, ultimately what you're trying to do, that helps you to keep going. Now, I've passed over 65 bills that have become the law. And I have focused on things that my constituents care about. That's affordable housing, that's public safety, that's ensuring that people have a second chance, that our small businesses have support. I've been proud of the work that I've done in the state legislature. I'm trying to bring that same urgency, attention to detail to City Hall.
Talk to us about the importance of bipartisan cooperation.
You know, here's the thing. At bottom, people want leaders who are going to serve and who care about the things they care about, who are fighting for the things that they fight for. And I've been proud in the state Senate to pass legislation that has been co-sponsored by both Democrats and Republicans. In fact, just yesterday, I passed a bill around junk food advertising with children that got Republican support. That's the type of leadership I think people want in this moment, where we have two extremes biting each other all the time. I want to focus on the things that people care about.
What is your philosophy of service? What's your North Star?
People often try to put labels on you, and they say, well, are you a progressive? Are you a moderate? Are you a conservative? When I'm talking to people on the street, and when they stop me on the street, they don't ask if I'm a progressive or a moderate or a conservative. They say, are you getting the job done? That is my North Star, the on the street. What am I doing to deliver for that everyday person? And that's what I'm trying to bring to City Hall too.
So you describe yourself perhaps more pragmatic than ideological.
That's exactly right. You know, the greatest mayor in New York City history, Mayor LaGuardia, said, there's no Republican or Democratic way to pick up the trash. And that is my philosophy. Pick up the trash, get the job done. Ultimately, that's what people are going to be concerned about.
You're just recently married. Talk to us about the importance of family and how it supports you through your job.
Family is everything. Family is everything. On the policy front, I want to ensure that New York City is a place where everyone can raise a family. As we know, childcare is unaffordable. A lot of things are unaffordable. But also in my personal life, family is important. You know, sometimes I got to tell my campaign team, no more events today. I'm going to date night with my wife. This is important because you cannot be a good leader, you can't be a good public servant if you're not being filled with the things that matter the most.
What is your vision, not just for New York City, but for America as a whole?
You know, we are in a period of great division. There's a lot of acrimony on both sides. There is a fever-pitch conversation on both sides. And my hope is that we become a country that says, listen, we can disagree. We can have strong disagreements, but we should not be disagreeable. We should have civil discourse, civil conversation, even passionately, but ensure that at the end of the day, people feel safe to have that conversation, and we're focused on making everyday Americans' lives better.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, the world's 2025 most livable cities list has been released, and it features an upset. We have more information after the break.
I can't get a hold of my mom.
I'm sure it's nothing.
I've called her 5 times.
I'm sure she's fine.
Is Grandma okay? Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, ma'am. We're sending help right now.
Hello?
Hello, this is Life Alert. Your mother had an emergency, and we dispatched paramedics to her home.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
She had a fall, but don't worry. She is safe, and the paramedics are helping her right now.
Thank you.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes. With one simple touch of a button, Life Alert sends help immediately. Whether it's to report a fall, a medical emergency, or an intruder, Life Alert sends first responders fast.
For a free brochure, call 800-382-9846. 800-382-9846. That's 800-382-9846.
I'm Ilka.
I live with my daughter and with my grandchildren. There's a sense of comfort that comes with eating a good meal. We try to make the most, of what we have. We have rent to pay, and then there are lights and there are gas. And while my daughter and I both work, it still just doesn't seem like there's enough to go around sometimes.
Every day, millions of our neighbors face hunger, including 1 in 5 children, and food costs keep rising. Please call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support can fill plates with nutritious food for families across the country and in your community, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks and volunteers.
If you were over and playing with us, you were part of our family and you were going to eat. A real cook can take nothing and make something.
No one should ever have to wonder if they will have enough to eat, and our neighbors are working hard to feed their families every day. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger from coast to coast and in your own community. Use your credit card and you'll get this exclusive canvas grocery bag as a thank you for joining hands with people across America to help end hunger.
Some of the lessons that I hope that my family will take, it is important to treat people the way that you want to be treated. I have carried on the tradition of loving people through food.
Please call right now or go online to make a monthly gift at helpfeedingamerica.org. Your support helps our neighbors bring food home to their families.
The Academy is honoring 4 Hollywood legends for their impact on film, television, and beyond. Tom Cruise, Dolly Parton, Debbie Allen, and Wynn Thomas will all receive honorary Oscars at this year's Governor's Awards. The award celebrates a lifetime of exceptional achievement, major contributions to film, or outstanding service to the Academy. Cruise is being recognized for his blockbuster career and commitment to the industry. Parton will take home the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award for her decades of charitable work. Debbie Allen is being honored for her groundbreaking work on stage and on screen as a choreographer, actor, and producer. And Wynn Thomas is being recognized for his visionary production design on films like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Malcolm X, and Hidden Figures. The awards will be presented on November 16th in Hollywood. The 2025 World's Most Livable Cities list has been released, and it features an upset. Danish capital Copenhagen takes the top spot, dethroning Vienna. The Austrian capital had been on top the past 3 years. The Economist Intelligence Unit's 2025 Global Livability Index was released yesterday. It ranked 173 cities around the world on a number of factors. Aspects including healthcare, education, stability, infrastructure, and environment were taken into account. With Copenhagen in first place, Vienna tied with second with Zurich, Switzerland. Australia's Melbourne kept its 4th place spot, with Switzerland's Geneva rounding out the top 5. The highest U.S. city on the list is Honolulu, Hawaii, which came in at number 23. Coming up, 2 people are under arrest after a hit and run at a No Kings protest that left a young woman critically injured. Meanwhile, the Department of Defense is deploying more National Guard troops to Los Angeles. We have that and more after the break.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95.